Affairs. My name is Nana Banamwa, and tonight we are discussing political party funding and corruption. Well, have you ever wondered how political parties get funded? Where do they get their source of income from? Well, tonight we want you to be part of that discussion using the hashtag State of Affairs. It's a Wednesday, so we've got the people, our friends from Ghana Decides, here with us. And of course, Kina Likimani will be leading that discussion with us. We also will be talking to the Executive Director of Ghana Integrity Initiative, Linda Ofori-Kwafo, and Albert Kandapa, Executive Director for Facilitating Political Parties Financing in Ghana project. So do stay with me and make sure you keep your comments coming in. And so tonight we'll take a look at some stories before we get into that discussion properly. We'll go to the Greater Accra region, of course, that's where we are, where residents of Chokome, it's a suburb here in Accra, they are threatening to boycott the elections if authorities fail to complete the construction of a toilet facility in the area. The facility was abandoned 6 years ago, forcing residents to resort to open defecation. We'll bring you a report by Alice Aite.
Chokome is a fishing community at Botiano, a suburb of Accra. With a population of more than 1,000 people, residents of this town do not have a single refuse container to put rubbish or solid waste in. Most townsfolk, therefore, have resorted to throwing away refuse at the shores of the sea and in gutters, which also end up in the sea. When the State of Affairs team visited the Chokome seashore, our camera captured rubbish scattered all over. The seashore, which used to be a hub for most tourists, is now drenched not just with rubbish, but human excreta, since residents say it is the only or better option of a place of convenience.
You have some 1 year and the other the old one, but the old one, if you go inside, the inside no good. So always people are going there, we are going there. That's what that one going there, no. The riverside here, no.
If you are fishing, some people they are shit on the distance, the fish side. If they fish the fish side, how we come to pull the net is difficult to us. So we don't know what we can do. And we tell them they refuse because they don't have toilet distance, toilet room. So they always go to the seaside and then they shit there.
According to the residents, the building of this structure, which is supposed to serve as a toilet, has stalled for more than 4 years. They say all efforts to get the contractor or the authorities to complete the project have proved futile.
Where they are building, but still they start up to now, they are not fit to complete. The person who started the project actually, I don't know the person.
Residents bemoaned the manner in which authorities have neglected the town and appealed for the situation to be handled well in order not to create bigger problems. They have threatened to boycott this year's election if the toilet project is not completed and no refuse container is brought to the town as soon as possible. The district authorities and MP for the area were not available to comment. State of Affairs will, however, follow up on this matter and update viewers. From Chokome in Accra, this is Alice Aite's report.
And from Accra, we go to the Volta region, specifically Wlitoji, also known as Small London. It's a community on top of a mountain, and residents are also complaining that access to roads is a major challenge to them. Well, they claim that they have so much, they grow so much, yet cannot access ready markets. Here's a report by Armstrong Alube.
Wlitoji, also known as Small London, is a farming community in the Volta region. This beautiful village sits on top of a mountain in the Hohoe municipality and is home to about 1,000 people. The divine story of this mountaintop town is, however, marred by the lack of roads. Wlitoji is a neighbor of the Wli waterfalls, and the only way of accessing the village is by hiking along the mountains. This usually takes 3 to 5 hours, depending on a person's stamina. It was 7 a.m. When the State of Affairs team set off from the Willy Waterfalls to Wilitoji, let's call it Small London for the duration of this story, Bright decided to be our escort for the trip. The climb up is not an easy one, as most paths are narrow with steep turns. The journey is arduous. Stories of snake bites, wounds from sharp rocks top the list of how dangerous the journey turns out to be on most days. And as we continued to make our way to Small London, it became more apparent that the entirety of the challenges along the way was not adequately reported. After 4 hours of hiking, the team finally arrived. This is Small London. It holds a lot of economic potentials: cocoa, kidney beans, cassava, yam, cocoyam, bananas and others do pretty well here. Reports suggest the town won an award for producing the best coffee beans in the Volta region a while back. Although crops abound, the lack of roads makes it impossible to access ready markets for prices favorable to farmers. The challenge to reach Ghanaian markets is, however, a blessing to the Togolese as a result of their closeness to the town. The regent to the stool shared his thoughts on the issue.
We are in need of roads since, just because of the road, we don't have access of road, then that is why our clinic is also not working well. Okay, our schools, if they send us teachers, they say they can't climb, so they will not come.
The absence of roads is also affecting education and health. The desire to build hospitals and schools by NGOs has been stalled by this challenge. Children of school-going age study under dangerous conditions. Teachers refuse posting here for obvious reasons. Inhabitants of the town are hoping that one day somebody will pay attention to them.
So that story was filed by Joseph Armstrong Gold Alogbe. And yesterday, if you watched the show, we showed you a story from Fana, a community here in Accra. And by popular request, but many of you claim you didn't see the story, so we're bringing it back to you. But it's a rather odd story, but very true. It is a taboo to die in Fana or even give birth on that land. Our reporter Alice Ayete explored the mysterious fishing community earlier this week, where these taboos are keenly observed, and filed this report.
It is about 6 o'clock in the morning, and just like any other children of school-going age across Ghana, children at Fana, an island community near Botiano in the Ga West municipality, prepare for school. Before they get to school in nearby Chokome town, however, they have to cross this river on canoes without life jackets.
This is how school kids from Fana travel daily, cross this river without life jackets at the peril of their lives just to get education in the mainland. Do you cross the river every day?
Yes.
So when you are crossing, are you not scared?
Yes.
You are scared, but you don't have any choice. But don't they give you, why are you not in life jackets? Do you know what a life jacket is?
No.
You don't know. It is a jacket that you wear so that in case you fall into the river, you don't get drowned. Have you worn some before?
No.
You don't have some. So what do you think, as a school child here in this community, what do you think should be done for you to save you from all this hassle?
We need the life jackets and canoe to cross the river.
Fana literally means a river bank. It is the name of a small community that lies between the sea and a river at Chokome near Botiano in the Gan West municipality in Accra. The mainstay of residents here is fishing, but some of them, especially the women, engage in some small trading in their huts, selling assorted items, while some others sell bread and drinks for the fishermen. According to the elders of this community, this place was only given to the fisher folks as a landing site, and the huts were built for the fishermen who traveled from other regions to rest after they come from sea at night and leave for their homes the next day. However, as the years went by, the place grew from just a landing site and a rest stop to a whole big community. Inhabitants of this island observe some strange taboos that defy the laws of nature. A pregnant woman is forbidden from delivering on this island. It is also a taboo for anyone to die in this same community.
If the time reach, they go to other side, Chokome side. Before they, if you born, we'll do everything before, after 3 weeks, 4 weeks before you come here.
People don't die here too. Yeah.
Why?
Because this is the last place that Homoa is being celebrated. So Homoa people, their last shrine is here. So we are not supposed to be here, but because here is where we are getting our daily bread, that's why we are here.
Any breach of the taboos is a sacrilege which attracts a penalty to the offender or his or her household.
When they die here, what we normally do is that they come and find us. So we pay for it before we take the cost. Those who control here, like Gan people, when they came and they witnessed what happened, they will take you to Sakmachushi. There they will charge you any amount at all. But when they didn't come, and it's something secret, we had it.
Even though the island lacks health facilities that will provide proper antenatal care, pregnant women are barred from delivering in this community. Pregnant women sometimes deliver on canoes while they are being transported to the clinics at nearby towns, while others die on their way, leading to high maternal mortality. Some people have lived on this island for over 50 years with little hope of resettlement. This is because they find nothing wrong with where they live now, but decried that they have been neglected by government and have not had a fair share of the national cake.
At first, this place, there is no electricity. So you are suffering like you are here. Before you learn, you go to Chokome and go and learn. But this place, now the sea is coming closer. As for this place is big, but now they have, because of the sea, this place we are mixed more. So if you want to go to school, you suffer before you go to school at here.
Anytime there is a flood or whenever the sea gets full and rough, most families lose their hearts in the rain or the gushing water, taking along with it valuable property and leaving debris scattered all over the shores in its wake. Despite the countless instances of torrential rains, inhabitants have never been relocated. What some residents here have done is to build their own sea defense walls by heaping or packing sand around their huts to block the water from entering. Some fishermen also send their families to the houses of other fishermen who live in the mainland or to nearby towns. Prior to our visit to the Fana community, we followed the school children to the Chokome MA Basic School, where most of them attend classes. According to the authorities of the school, although they are aware of the dangers the children go through by crossing the river each day without life jackets, there is little they can do to save the situation.
It's really a problem. Yes, we have thought of that situation because the children are at risk, but personally or as a school, we have not spoken to any organization or anybody to provide us with the life jacket. What we did some time ago when they were finding it difficult to cross was to get an NGO to get us a boat, which ferries them from to and fro. But even that is also damaged. So for now, they find their own way in and out.
With the weird taboos observed at Fana and how the community lacks all basic social amenities, we wondered whether it is a recognized community. To our dismay, we were told that the community has about 2 different electoral areas where voting takes place each election year. Our cameras chanced on the flags of the 2 main political parties in Ghana, hanging on some canoes. When we questioned the residents on whether they will vote or not in the upcoming election, they gave varied responses.
We have places that we vote here, but those who came here when they can we vote, that's all. You don't see them anymore again, unless it's voting time before you see them. So due to these flood issues, they came here and they've written people's names that they are coming to share solar light. When they came here, they sold the light 30 Ghanas each to everyone here. Those who are not having money, they don't have access to it. We are not going to vote for anyone again because they are cheating us. And even where we are living here is dangerous.
I guess the question that boggles your mind and my mind is, how on earth will one know that he or she is going to die today or tomorrow or in the next minute before he or she packs or move out of this place? For State of Affairs from Fana near Chokome in Accra, my name is Alice Aite.
Okay, so we move on to other stories, and let me just remind you that per the opinion poll on the EIB Election Hub app, it's quite a mouthful. Well, President Mahama is leading Nana Akufo-Addo in that opinion poll. You should download the app in Android or the iOS stores and participate in that poll. Coming up now is our countdown to the elections by Benefson.
EIB Election Hub. Expect more.
Last week we did the increase in number of constituencies from 230 to 275. It affected Tema. We had Tema East, Tema West. They combined them and split them to 3. Tema East, Tema West, and then Tema Central. Have you heard MP3? I'm not talking about the musical device that someone likes listening to. No. Okay, no. MP3 is the member of parliament who won by 3 votes. I'm talking about Daniel Ninkwate, Titus Glover. I think Titus should be 50 this year. He was 46 at the time of the elections. He got 30,075 votes. He beat the former MC of Tema and the NDC candidate, Robert Kempis of Osuwari. Kempis got 30,072. So if you hear people referring to Titus Glover as MP3, this is why. The two people are coming up again. Ofosuware won the NDC primaries. Titus won the MPP primaries. And this time, Ofosuware, you had the thing in your hand and you allowed Titus to MP3. Unless, if the two of them are contesting head to head, Titus will win with a greater margin. But if activists of the two parties, some influential ones, decide to contest and file nomination with the Electoral Commission, that could affect whoever. But if it's the two of them without other people contesting, then Titus will not be MP3. Maybe he may win by a wider margin. Adansi Asokwa is in Ashanti region, and it's a very safe seat for the MPP. The member of parliament there is popularly known as K.T. Hammond. His full name is Kobna Tahiru Hammond. In 2012, the margin was not that big. He won by 1,633. There were so many instances of acrimony leading up to the MPP's primaries. One person who felt that the executives bullied him out has said he will go independent. If that person carries out his threat and files as independent, K.T. Hammond will lose the seat. K.T. Hammond has called the bluff of that gentleman. So, oh, to me, Yashi, well, if that gentleman decides to take up K.T. Hammond's day, then K.T. Hammond is a lawyer. Then the NDC candidate, Ivan Samankwa, who also contested in 2004, will beat K.T. Hammond.
Hello everybody, my name is John Benjamin. I'm the British High Commissioner. Keep watching State of Affairs on GH1.
Welcome back to the show, and tonight, as always, you can join the discussion using the hashtag State of Affairs, and it's a Wednesday, so we partner Ghana Decides. Tonight, we are discussing political party funding and corruption. Is there a nexus at all? We'll be finding out pretty soon. Joining me in the studio tonight is Kina Likimani, as always, project lead, Blogging Ghana and Ghana Decides. Good to have you back on the show, Kina. And also joining us for the first time on the show is the Honorable Albert Kandapa, who is Executive Director for Facilitating Political Parties Financing in Ghana Project. It's good to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you.
All right. And also Linda Ofori-Kwafo is the Executive Director of Ghana Integrity Initiative. It's good to have all three of you in the studio with us here tonight. I'll start with you, Honorable Kandapa, because you're the politician here.
Am I?
Yes, you are. The only politician here. Well, we are all politicians in a certain way, but yeah. I mean, you belong to a very big party. Has funding of the NPP or any political party that you've studied, you know, over the years been a difficult process at all? And before you even answer that, are you for or against political parties being funded by the state?
That is where the fusion starts from. Financing political parties is not the same as state funding for political parties. Financing political parties is for us to know about how the political parties are financed. It can be through donations that they get. It can be through so many other means. It can also be through state funding. Okay. Today in Ghana, there isn't any significant amount of state funding. So that is not what we really are talking about. We just want to find the best way of financing these political parties. You really want to make sure that the financing is both transparent and is accountable. You want to avoid a situation where there emerges what you can call political investors in the country. They provide money for you to become the president. They provide the money for you to become the district chief executive. They provide the money for you to become the parliamentarian. And clearly, when you would have won to become the president, when you are now the member of parliament, when you are now the district chief executive, he will expect to get his money back. And we believe this goes to promote corruption in the country. And that is why we are worried about it. That let us find a way of funding the political parties such that it is both transparent and it is accountable.
But is it possible? I mean, we've been practicing this for a while, and we know that people donate to these political parties. Sometimes you see a road construction, the work is so shoddy, and you ask a contractor, why is the road so shoddy? The contractor sponsored the political party. At the time he's getting the contract, he has to give some kickbacks. So the money left is so small that the road has to be constructed so badly, and it's the citizens who suffer in the end. What do you think? I mean, you are a seasoned politician. You are more experienced than many of your colleagues. What do you think should be the ideal process of getting funding for these political parties?
What we're trying to do is to start a national conversation, which will end up with specific recommendations as to how the political parties should be funded. If the political parties have to be funded by people in the country, you want it to be stated. There should be regulations to show how it should be given, how it should be disclosed, how everybody should know about it. We think it is dangerous to leave it unregulated. It's very, very expensive to run a presidential campaign in this country. We all know it's very, very expensive. The cost of one billboard alone is very, very significant. It's money that we don't expect the presidential candidates to be able to raise on their own. It's money that we don't expect the political parties on their own to be able to raise. So clearly, somebody must have been giving them the money to do all this. What we're trying to do is to identify the means through which they get such monies and to make sure that in future, any such donation will be given in a manner that everybody will know about it, in a manner that it will be accounted for. If we don't do that, and we allow the emergence, and it's not just the emergence, I believe they exist already. If you allow the political investors to take over, certainly you are in trouble, because you have the situation that you refer to. When the political investor gives, say, $1 million for the campaign, when you win, he's not expecting you to pay him back only the $1 million. Most times, he's asking for about $100 million in return for the $1 million that you gave to him. And you see in Ghana, it is not seen as a very risky investment by these investors because the public financial management system and the governance system is such that once you are a president, there are a whole lot of things that you can do. You know, you can easily maneuver around the public financial management system and in fact reward such people. If we did have a good public financial management system, which makes it impossible for a president to dole out contracts the way we do, people wouldn't have been giving monies the way they are giving. So our conversation, funded by Star Ghana, is to try to identify ways that political parties are funded, to start a national conversation about the need for us to know and regulate how these parties are funded, and hopefully to come by an act of parliament that will lay down the rules for everybody to follow.
Absolutely. Thank you. Now, I'll come to you, Linda, now, because if you look at the Constitution, I mean, Article 55, Section 16 is very clear. Spells it clearly that only citizens of Ghana may make financial contributions to a political party registered in the country. Now, there's a rather loud silence in the Constitution on how, and he made mention to it, how the political parties should get this funding within the country. You do a lot of, corruption workshops, anti-corruption workshops. What have you studied? What has been the trend over the years?
I must say that my organization and our partners are very much interested in the fact that there is an absence or there is a gap of what constitutes political party finances, and then the fact that there are no regulations and nobody is being held accountable for anything. So our interest has been because of this gap, there is the possibility of an incumbent government having access to certain resources which they can use to their advantage, and then creating an unlevel playing field in the election. So we have concentrated our efforts on monitoring what we call abuse of incumbency. Okay. And when we talk about that, we also talk about abuse of state resources, abuse of media resources, abuse of budgets. All these things are possible, and an incumbent government will have an advantage that other people wouldn't have. So we have concentrated our effort on that aspect of the debate. We are very much worried about the fact that we still do not know how they get their funding, so anything is possible. And to that extent, using state resources is equally possible. And work that we've done in previous elections have pointed to the fact that there is so much abuse of resources during election period. And that is where they need money the most. We talk about using state resources to buy votes. Is an abuse of incumbency, because your other people or contestants wouldn't have such resources. So we are equally worried about how they get their money, but then how somebody who has the power, it's likely, the likelihood, we have not said anybody is doing that, but then it's possible that they might be abusing state resources to their advantage, and that is clearly an act of corruption. Okay,
so, opposition must be very painful in an election year. Mr. Kandapa will address that issue a bit later, but Kina, I mean, Ghana Decides, this is a very important issue to you. I mean, why so? I mean, they've outlined various reasons, but why is it?
Because
don't worry, go on.
Because when we talk about particularly what, from our point of view, that we want Ghana to be developed. We want our citizens to have access to quality services. We want justice and freedom and justice. Funding of political parties or lack thereof, or how they get their money, goes directly to that. I'm amazed, actually. I mean, I have to say that it's so important that Honorable Dapai is dealing, this is what he talks a lot about. I mean, he's talking about how MPs fund, how MPs and all that. It's very important because in the current environment, it's going to take somebody like him, who is also a political insider, to on one hand tell us the truth, and then on the other hand engage with the parties to find a solution to this, because we need to. If somebody has taken money from, say, a businessman, a businesswoman, and if the person is expecting payment back in excess of their investment, huge amount of money.
Oh, you need the profit.
Exactly, but if it's like, even like, you know, it's huge. What he's talking about, somebody has given the party 1 million and maybe they're expecting 100 million. That goes directly to, you can't build the things that you want to build. That person has to get that money. So it goes directly to the work that we may not be able to do to free our people, to deliver quality services. It has a direct bearing on governance and development and inclusion and everything we are supposed to be about. So it's a very important topic. I mean, I'm stunned actually by what he said. I mean, everything is, you know, we suspect this as citizens, but to have him say these things, it has real value. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you get surprised that people get surprised at some of these revelations?
Oh, yes. It's not just peculiar to Ghana. It's something that happens all over the world.
Yeah.
And it's probably worse in our part of the world in Africa. So far, the people that we've talked to in this job that we try, this assignment that we're trying to do, most people will simply tell you, whatever you do, don't come up with a report that says the state must fund the political
Why not?
parties. Well, because they think the politicians should be capable of funding themselves.
Okay.
But it doesn't work that way, you know. If the state is not funding, and if I have to rely on the political investors, and I have to pay them back through the award of dubious contracts, inflating contracts that are given to them. At the end of the day, it is state money that is being used for that.
Yeah.
And it's probably no different from asking the state to say that give them the money. It's too early for me to say whether I support the state funding of political parties or not. But it is important that whatever method we use in financing the political parties, two things must be present. There should be transparency, there should be accountability. Today, they simply don't exist. We don't know how they have funded themselves. We don't know whether they do get monies from outside, even though the law says they shouldn't. When you look at the amount of monies being spent...
Because I understand that some of the political parties, especially the two big ones,
Yeah.
do get funding from, you know, certain foreign institutions,
I
foreign
wouldn't know.
organizations.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't know. I mean, I've not been part of the finance team for the party that I belong to, so I wouldn't know. But if you look at the amount of monies that I spent, obviously, some help do come from outside. And we need to go into this and see how best we can address them. It is a major, major problem because it is at the root of the problems with corruption that we have in this country. It is even said in some African countries that at times the political investors, the people who provide the monies for the presidents to become presidents, they are more powerful than the ministers of state.
Absolutely.
Right.
It happened. We saw it in South Africa recently.
Yes.
Jacob Zuma came under so much pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And we were asking what my own experience has been. It's strange, you know. When I was an MP, and I was MP for, you know, a number of years, I contested. Yes, I contested for elections. When we started, I didn't have to go to the bank, my own bank, to even take money for campaign.
You had donations.
Small donations. Okay. You know, it wasn't expensive. Right. To fight the primaries, I didn't have to spend any huge amount of money. Today, for you to win the primaries in the NPP strong areas, you need to spend nothing less than 100,000 Ghana cedis.
Golly.
If you want to win the primaries in the NDC strong areas, you need to spend an amount similar to that. When you consider that probably the salaries that they will earn in Parliament over the 4-year period may not come to that much, you then need to ask yourself, how do they expect to pay back whatever loan they must have taken to do the financing? Or is it the case that they didn't have to take a loan, but somebody gave them the money? If somebody gave them the money, clearly the man expects some returns at some point in time. And how are you going to manage this? This is the problem that we have. This is a problem that we should not hide under the carpet. We should all talk about it and come by some arrangements.
You think it's a discussion politicians would want to even initiate at all?
You see, most of the political reforms that we want in our country have not come from the politicians.
Absolutely.
We don't expect the politicians to reform when probably they are enjoying from it. So it's up to you and me, the media, civil society. We are the people who should make it impossible for the politicians not to initiate the reform processes. So it's not a question of whether the politicians will like it or not. It's a question of how do we ensure that government funds are properly protected. You cannot protect government funds when the president has to pay those who made it possible for him to be there.
It's a very difficult situation, isn't it,
Linda?
I think it is very difficult and especially worrying, and with the revelations coming up in an election year where every project or contract seems to be having overpayments of the contract fees due the contractors. That should tell you that so many things happen, and when it comes to political parties mobilizing resources to fund their activities, once again, in an election year. And so when it comes to the debates as to whether states should fund or not, I'm happy Honorable is saying the conversation is yet to start. Because even though political parties play a very important role in democracy, it doesn't mean that we don't have to prioritize. The other states might be funding political parties, but in a part of the world where even drinking water is not accessible to all. I'm not saying political parties' activities are not important, and I don't want anybody to get me wrong. But then we have other needs that we need to equally attend to. So I'm also not saying I'm not in support of that. I've not expressed my...
Well, progressively, you're getting there.
It's possible
because
I might
resources.
not, yes.
Yeah.
And so we will be happy to all join the debate, and we'll also be interested to see political parties themselves joining the conversations.
Okay, because when you look across, I know, for instance, the NPP had a fundraiser in Ghana recently, to raise funds for the elections. They've done a similar one in other countries. I know there's one coming up in the UK very soon, and another is already in London. There's a fundraiser coming up in London. So that's innovative. It's a very innovative way of raising money. And then the NPP introduced the scratch cards. I mean, I saw that and I thought, oh, this is very spectacular. I mean, then you're not relying on political investors, as Honorable Kandapa likes to call them. You would expect that across the board, the political parties would look within themselves. There's so much, technology now, and be innovative, so that the discussion about corruption and relying so much on certain wealthy people would probably go down.
But I want to say that owning the conversation must be the citizens. We must do it, because democracy is a very, people, we like to say, and it is true, it's the most participatory government. It brings in citizens, it can be inclusive. But one thing about democracy is that it is resource intensive, it's legal intensive. I mean, it's the most intensive resource requiring system of governance, which is why the Constitution had to say something about funding of political parties. I am not against the state funding the parties. I believe that they should have an option that people can opt out of it. But what is dangerous really, because we the citizens are already so exasperated by what we perceive to be dipping into state coffers by political parties, that we wouldn't even want to consider. And of course, we have developmental needs. But this is something we really need to own, and we need to say exactly how we want this done. And I think I would urge Ghanaians not to rule out the state funding bit, because the sort of things that we require for our development, right? The things that we want to see the changes, right? We really are asking for a leader who will come. Imagine someone comes and says they are going to reform the health sector in ways in which is really going to make everybody upset, including the civil service. If we have a leader who is independent, I mean really independent in the sense that the way in which that leader and the party has been funded to come into power allows them the room to maneuver. You see what I'm trying to say? In other words, that on some level, we can't ask for change, the kind of change that we want, when the leaders come in with they are hampered, you see, because of the funding issue. So I would urge citizens not to, you know, it's problematic because we've already allowed them, you know, we have allowed them to dip into state coffers. We have acted as though this was too much for us to handle. We have given them the space to do this stuff. And even when revelations come out, we continue to not hold them accountable. Really, it's on us. They are not going to own this conversation. And we really can't afford anymore to have leaders who come in, compromise. You already compromised. I mean, we're compromised from the primaries. How effective are you going to be in solving our problems? I mean, even things like when you think about something that is not as earth-shaking as plastics. How many times have leaders considered maybe we should ban plastics? Well, if they're getting funding from, you know, how are they going to ban plastics? It's very simple, you know.
If a plastic company sponsored.
It's a cause and effect. So how are they going to ban plastics if they've gotten funding from plastics? Why don't we replace? You see, that is the problem. Yeah. And so we have to. I don't rule out state funding because we chose this. It's almost as though we chose this system. We knew this was what we needed to do, but we really haven't understood what it's going to require from us in terms of even financial, securing the operations of parties so that they don't dip into our coffers.
You wanted to add on?
Yes, I wanted to say that, Anaba, we have to bear in mind that state funding of political parties will not reduce or eliminate corruption.
It won't?
If you look at the orthodox ways or causes of corruption, I am yet to see state funding of political parties being a cause to the current kinds and types of corruption we experience in our parts of the world. So obviously, that is not going to solve the problem. There are several ways and means we can minimize corruption in the country and then have development as a nation. And that is how come I'm not a strong believer of the fact that we should be using our scarce resources to fund. And apart from that, even when we fund them, they will still find ways and means of getting corrupt resources, whether within or without, to fund their activities.
You don't believe them at all, do you?
I believe them because I'm equally human and I can be a politician one day. And so their fathers, our mothers are in there. So, but then we are informed by things that have happened in the past. And I said we have monitored abuse of incumbency and electoral corruption in previous elections. And they all point to the fact that this is not a small matter that we can easily erase or deal with state funding of political parties. That's why I'm saying that if we have developmental needs, then we should have this conversation, have it very well, and know that that will not solve the problem of corruption in this country.
Honorable Kandapa, you want to?
Yeah, I think we need to explain some issues. I very much agree with the views that have been expressed. State funding, two ways of doing it. You can put something in the budget, the national budget, and say that this money is meant for the political parties to use for their political activities. Probably that is what most people in Ghana are referring to. But you don't have to do that, you know. You may not make a specific provision for them, but you may put in the budget that we're going to spend so much on education, so much on infrastructure development, so much on health. Then the politician comes in, the president comes in, and instead of spending, say, the $20 million allocated for infrastructure development, going through the necessary procurement procedures and processes such that we really get value for money, they go through these sole sourcing arrangements and give to a political investor a contract which should be, say, for $15 million. He gives it to him for $20 million. Where is the money coming from? It is coming from the same budget, right? So whether we are making a direct allocation in the budget or we are allowing the politicians to fiddle with the real allocations in the budget and get some extra to pay their political investors, we're talking about the same thing. Right. It's money that belongs to us. The question is, how do we come by such regulations, such laws, such that there will be transparency in all this, such that we will know if Party A is cheating, such that we will know if Party B is cheating. And we should be worried because it distorts the democratic process. It is so easy for illicit funds to find its way into politics. Right. It's a very, very dangerous thing for society if we do not regulate the monies that are made available to these politicians to contest. We cannot go on with this. In the past, it's probably not been a problem. As I said, when I entered politics, it wasn't that expensive. We didn't need that much money.
What changed?
All of a sudden...
The delegates have become very expensive.
All of a sudden, things have changed.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think I ever spent, I don't know, in present terms, money. I don't think I ever spent more than 5,000, 10,000 cedis for my primaries. Right. And I don't think I spent so much money that I had to sell a property or take all the money that I had in the bank. I will normally call a group of friends, about 40, 50. We will have a fundraising ceremony. This man will give me 500 cedis, 1,000 cedis, and it was about enough. Today, no, you cannot do that. You need a huge amount of money just for the primaries. And probably you need an equally huge amount for the election itself. Somebody has to provide the money.
Okay.
It is the duty of you and me to make sure that we can regulate that activity.
In the case where the state funds these political parties, you know, the question is, how will the monies be shared? Would GCPP be getting the same amount of money as the NPP and the NDC? I mean, there will be another case of discrimination. People want fairness. So if NDC is getting A and NPP is getting B, those down there must also get A and B.
No, but you see, the human brain is so powerful. Right. You can easily find solutions to some of these problems. We need to be careful how the monies will be shared in the first place, and it can become very, very contentious. Yes, I agree to that. There is also the point that was made earlier by my sister here. Who tells you that after we've made provision for them in the budget and have given them the money, they will not go behind our back and still collect money from the political investors?
Absolutely.
So if we were to decide to give state funding, we must still find answers to the potential danger of him having received money from us, also going to the same political investors to receive monies. But mind you, political investors also exist in the United States. They exist in the UK.
Yeah.
But there are clear rules and regulations.
So you see transparency.
There is transparency. And they know that if they misbehave, they will go to jail. So nobody cheats. That is what we seek.
So it comes back to the issue you raised about regulation.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. We are going to take a short break. I'll just take some of the responses we've been getting to this discussion so far. So if you still want to send us messages, use the hashtag State of Affairs so that I can immediately spot your message. It's actually, I'm getting a deluge of messages on my timeline right now. Okay, so Ibrahim Al-Hassan says that I think that the political parties should be funded by the state because at the moment there's too much bribery and corruption going on. How do we even know that projects such as SADA and the others were not given to political investors? Well, I do not know, and I refuse to comment on those ones. Okay, there's this one as well from Be Like a Pro. You have a very interesting name. He says the best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter, and you will know that we are totally against funding political parties. Okay. Dajuma says that the political parties should find their own monies. They should not rely on our monies because we don't even have hospitals. All right. Jajuma comes back to say that if you go to certain areas, school children don't even have shoes to wear. We should give political parties monies to campaign. Are you joking? Oh. People are not taking it quite lightly. But yes, there's a message I saw earlier, one who definitely supports funding political parties. Yes, it's from Martin Afenya, who says that if we fund these political parties, we'll be regulating them and we'll know that there will be no kickbacks at the presidency. Well, I don't think you're trying to suggest that there's a kickback, taking at the presidency. Anyway, there's more to come on my timeline. Even the churches are corrupt in this country. Have you been to their harvest? All right. Simon says, if we are not talking about it to cure it, but to reduce it, then we should stop talking about corruption. It will never stop, and he's referring to the churches. I don't have light to join you, but I'm following it on Twitter, and I think that we should fix the energy situation before giving monies to politicians to campaign. All right, we'll be right back.
This is former President J.J. Rawlings, and you're watching State of Affairs on GH1.
Right, you're welcome back, and we're discussing political party funding and corruption. Honorable Kandapa, I have to come back to you. Now, one of the arguments against the state funding political parties is that if we go ahead to disburse certain amounts of monies to the political parties, there will probably be a case where the political parties or the politicians will renege on their relationship with civil society and the electorate. The bonding will not be there. There will be no connection because they know that we don't need you anyway. I mean, once the state is giving us the money, we are fine. We'll go about our duties. So that relationship may be broken. Is that a relevant, is that really a solid argument?
Not really. The problem we have and the argument is that considering the level of expenditure, the amount of money that you need for these campaigns, you're not getting it from the civil society organizations, you're not getting it from ordinary citizens. Right. Whatever they give is peanuts. The money, the big money, is coming from an investor who we don't know.
Right.
Is it a human being? Is it a company? Is it coming from Mauritius? Is it coming from Russia, from China, from UK, from US? We don't know. We ourselves have indicated that we don't want any foreigner to pay money for our political activities. Is that what is happening? We don't know.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of whether the state should pay. That is not a real argument. But as I keep saying to people, at least as far as the winning party is concerned, there is state funding. Except that he doesn't get it allocated to him in the budget. But the monies that have been allocated for education, for other things, they maneuver with it. Right. Such that they can have some returns from there to pay the political investor. This has been the trend in the developing countries, those countries that are trying to learn to be democratic. This has been the trend. It's not only in Ghana. We're not accusing Ghanaians. It is a fact that this happens in the developing countries. And it is a problem that we need to address.
You wanted to know is that what he's calling state funding is what we are calling corruption.
Yes.
This is the thing. And we are not happy with the corruption.
Yeah, corruption is state funding.
We are quite put out by it. So what are we going to do? It upsets us a lot. Things don't happen because of it. People have access and you don't know why they have, So it's not, I don't agree with what the Honorable is. I don't call it state funding because it is not it's not official, it's not on any books. It's not, nobody accounts to us. We didn't agree to it. Parliament didn't vote for it. It wasn't in the budget.
But it's our own money.
It's our money.
They have stolen to do that.
They have taken it out. But that is corruption.
Yes.
And
agree with
and the thing is, once you see the corruption that it and therefore enables everywhere else. I was thinking that when I was coming in here about, we are always going on about the police being corrupt, the perception of the police. If we allowed this to operate over here, we call it state funding, but then we are allowing all corruption to operate. Because how is somebody then going to come into power and then say, oh, I'm just going to get rid of corruption,
right,
when it's actually going on? And so therefore, it goes on here, it goes on everywhere. And I mean, I'm not saying just the police.
So the fight against corruption becomes just a rhetoric.
Precisely because for the leaders and the MPs to get up every day and even talk, that was fueled by corruption. So that's what I'm saying, is that we have to find ways in which we, I keep coming back to the fact that we've picked a pretty resource-intensive democracy, and we should face it. I'm not in other countries where they have options for state funding. The political parties don't even opt for it. Rather, they opt for raising their own money and then being transparent about it with a lot of regulation and oversight. I mean, in the United States, for instance, a politician who has misappropriated maybe even $5,000 of their own campaign funds can be sent to jail. So even if we gave them that option, chances are they will opt out of it. But what we cannot allow to have happen anymore is, we know they are coming into power with all sorts of monies. We don't even know the extent of it. They must sit back and laugh at citizens when we even talk. They're like, you have no idea, right? And we know they are going to recoup. And how are they going to go and recoup that? So the way they recoup it then fuels all the corruption in Ghana. This is what I believe.
Okay, I got a message.
You're saying the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You say that either a specific allocation is made to them in the budget, or there is no allocation for them, but they will use monies allocated for other purposes.
Right.
To pay them. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing,
right?
Really.
So it is a huge problem, and indeed it is the cause of all the corruption that we have.
And we can't
in this,
hide.
country.
I mean, we can't. You see, citizens cannot queue on election day and not understand this fundamental fact. And we can't say Ghana is a democratic nation and we do that and not understand this. It's very important. This is what we should have sorted this out a long time ago.
So it's actually not a luxury.
No, it's
when
not.
we talk about state funding.
It's costly.
It is.
Exactly.
It is costly. Linda?
Yes, what has been described by my colleagues is what we call incumbency abuse. Because obviously the other opponents will not have access to the education fund.
To repay their debt.
Yes. So that is what we have been focusing our work on. But Danaba, when you talk about civil societies having roles or engagement with political parties, even when they receive state fund, I think they will give us more work if the states should start funding them, because we would hold them accountable. Once we know A, B, C resources are going to them, then we will be able to tell, then give us the account, what did you use the resources for, how much did you really get, did you get as stipulated under the regulations? So we will get more work to do. So we want more work. So if state funds, then there will be more work. But then there is something that is really worrying. If state political parties are getting resources from even outside the country, and we are saying we don't know, I know there are financial regulations as to how monies come into the country. So then if monies are being laundered, are they coming in the form of cash? Are they coming in the form of what? We should be able to tell. And if we don't know how they mobilize the resources, how money is coming from outside, then already they are breaking some laws. Because we should be able to tell what money comes in. Was it wired through the banks? So the issue is bigger
than the case we are unable to detect.
Yes. So I'm saying the issue is bigger than just talking about how they get their money, state funded, what they are currently getting, and even after state funding, they will still get. How is the money coming in for us not to be able to detect? Then there is a problem.
Well, fortunately, Honorable Kandapa is an accountant. He can speak to the issue of...
It is a problem, isn't it? Because I think she's asking a very, very valid question. No, there are laws in this country which should stop people being able to transfer money to Ghana illegally. So it's a very valid question. How do they get access to the money? The money is spent in Ghana, so obviously it finds its way to Ghana. How does it find its way?
It goes back to what you raised earlier about the public financial management system.
The public financial management system is very, very bad. See, it's so arranged. Our public financial management system is it's on paper excellent, right? That we recognize, the Constitution recognized that if you give government all the monies that we do, state funds, and if you don't put in place measures to protect it, somebody will steal it.
Right.
So the Constitution puts in place specific institutions to hold the president accountable. Right. The first one is the Auditor General, who uses his expertise to go and do the audit. Parliament is at the center of it all, and then the judiciary, who have to sanction. The problem we've been having is that for you to be able to oversight, what you really need is independence. Right? If you ask my wife to audit me, you are not being very, very smart. Right? You need some amount of independence. But we do have an Auditor General to make sure that the president doesn't steal money, to hold him accountable. But this Auditor General is appointed by the president himself. He can be dismissed by the president himself. The money that he needs to do his work is determined by the president. So how can he hold him accountable? Most times, he appoints an Auditor General, at times, not most times, he appoints an Auditor General who is acting. How can you do the work that you should do when you are acting? Or, most times, the man is over 60 years, but is given a contract, courtesy the president. Will he then go back and hold him responsible? Then you come to Parliament, after the report is brought to Parliament, what happens? We do have a Parliament where the majority, right, will also produce the ministers. Everybody there on the government bench wants to be a minister. Are you going to hold the president accountable, going to say something against his budget or his bill, and in the process be denied the opportunity to be made a minister? Even if you don't want to be a minister, you want special projects to go to your constituency. And it is the minister and his minister, the president and his minister of finance who will be able to give you the money. If you criticize them, they simply wouldn't give you the money. Therefore, Nana, since 1993, there has not been one occasion where somebody from the government side has criticized the government budget.
Impossible. Never heard
And
of
nobody from the opposition has also said anything good about the budget. So what do we think we are doing? Right. So Parliament itself has lost the ability to hold the president accountable. They have every disincentive not to annoy the president. Right. Then there is the judiciary. Remember, the Chief Justice, everybody at the Supreme Court is appointed by the president. Right. So the Attorney General, who is the only person who can initiate a criminal action against people who have stolen government money, is a member of cabinet, is a member of the party.
Minister of Justice.
So how will he take action against them? Right. So we do have a president so powerful, nobody can really hold him to account. And we're not talking about President Mahama. I mean, it's been the case from 1993. And after so many years, we should be able to sit down and say that we should change these things. Unless we change it, right, there is no way you are going to be able to.
So the whole chain is weak.
Yes. The controls don't exist.
Right.
If you want me to spoil your evening for you, the Auditor General has consistently said that, look, my duty is to go to the various ministries and ask them how much money was given to you this year and how have you spent it. Show me your financial statements, your accounts, so I can audit. He says that over a number of years, none of the ministries in Ghana is able to tell him.
Wow.
To say that this is the money I received, this is how I spent it, these are my financial statements. Go and get a copy of the latest report. It is there. Get a copy of the report 5-10 years ago. It is there. And can you believe it? Somebody sets up this TV station. He comes to you at the end of the year. Mr. General Manager, can you show me your accounts? Well, I'm not very sure how much money we earned. neither am I sure how much money we spent. That is how bad the public financial management system is in the country.
Linda, I mean, this is quite shocking. I mean, we all talk about how powerful the president is, you know, and as he mentioned, we're not talking about President Mahama, but our president is really, they wield so much power. They control basically everything. There's a question that came from one professor who calls himself Professor Inketia. He says he's with the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. And he wanted to find out from Honorable Kandapa that political parties play a vital role in the democratic process. So does the judiciary and the media and NGOs. So should all of them also be funded by the state?
I'm not asking the political parties to be funded by the state. I'm saying that there's a huge problem. So let us talk about it and let's find a way of solving the problem.
So Professor Nketia, that is your answer. Linda?
Honorable has actually outlined for us the nature of the problem we are currently facing.
In fact, the magnitude.
The magnitude, I have to say that way. Anaba. But then even where we have opportunity to sanction, we don't. And just before I came to the studio, I was granted an interview where I was asked a question. Is it a new way we have adopted in dealing with corruption, refund the money back to the state? And I would then tell you how long, or we negotiate how long I would want to pay the money back to the state. Is it a new method of dealing with corruption? Why are public officials who have facilitated corruption or any wrongful acts not being punished? Are they using administrative means of leave this place to another district or region to punish them? We don't even know about that. There are so many instances, if the recent allegations of corruption where people are being asked overpayments. If you excuse me, did the money just walk from, or the check walk from one place into that person's account? Some public officials might have facilitated the process. So if even the AG is being appointed by the state, if even the Auditor General is in acting position, they can still even do more than they are doing now. That is our belief. Because seriously, we think that Constitution has given some of these public officials a lot of power. The president is powerful, but they are equally also have power. Even though you are in an acting position, whatever it is, there is something that you can do that you are not doing. That I think we will be getting to the state that now Ghanaians love going to the court. So we will all be going to the court and seeking relief for mandamus for public officials to do their work. Because there is something that they can do, and we are not very happy with this new method of refund the money back to the state. RG had the opportunity to do that. Woyome had the opportunity to do that. Photo X whatever, and then the Smarties deal. What are we talking about? Which part of our constitution only allows us to take the money? Recovering the resources is good for us. We would need it to build, do other things. But then the people involved should be punished. And the public would want to see. See, when we talk about perceptions of corruption, it's informed about these happenings. It's from these things. And then we go like, how are you always talking about perceptions? The people see, they hear, and they talk about it. So they don't see any person being punished. They don't see any person being sacked. Ministers just resign because there's something happening in my ministry, so I have resigned. And they get the opportunity to do all sort of things even when they resign. But what about the public officials who are working with the minister? We've not heard about anything. And that is very worrying. So if we don't have so much power, it's because the president has so much. What are we doing? The little power that we have, that we are not utilizing, and the people are not happy with the state officials that have these responsibilities.
Dr. Dapa, you want to add?
No, I agree that there is only one way to stop corruption. Sanctions. Sanction. If I steal and you don't punish me, why should Kweku also not steal?
Yeah.
But what we don't have in this country is exercising the powers that we have to sanction people. Right? So the corruption continues. It's so bad that, tell me, stealing government funds, is it seen as something deceitful in this country? Is it seen as something bad?
No, actually.
People
I mean,
don't
if
worry
you leave
about
public office and you don't have a house or
Yes.
3 cars, then you're very useless.
Yes.
Yeah, you're considered really, really useless.
So we need to take this question of sanctions very, very seriously. Make sure that people who are caught are in fact punished. That is what the laws say. But somehow, we don't do it.
Right.
Indeed, again, if you want your night to be spoiled, I'm not aware of any revelation in the Auditor General's report from the 1990s up now. Any wrongdoing that has ended up in court for the person to be prosecuted.
Absolutely.
If you hear people going to being tried in the courts, it's not because it was detected in the Auditor General's report. Right? It is because they were found from other...
Is the reason people think that the Public Accounts Committee really sometimes wastes everybody's time?
No, it's not a waste. At least the Public Accounts Committee has been successful in alerting Ghanaians to the problem.
But eventually nothing is happening.
No, their work stops there.
When they present their report.
When they present their report, it stops there.
So it's up to the Attorney General.
Yes, if it is an administrative recommendation, it is up to what we call the Audit Report Implementation Committee to take it up. The challenge there is that the Audit Report Implementation Committee is made up of the same officials of the institution against whom the adverse findings have been made. If it is of a criminal nature, it is only the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice who can initiate action. But again, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice is a key member of cabinet, is a key member of the party, and it takes quite a lot for you to prosecute your colleagues, you know.
Yeah.
So we've not seen it in this country for a long time.
Okay, we've got just about 4 minutes to go, but we'll take our last break. And just to remind you that the earlier tweets that I read to you were brought to you by MTN. Everywhere you go, we'll be back in a tad. All right, yeah, welcome back. We've got just 2 minutes to go, so I'll just give Honorable Kandapah and the 2 ladies, you know, the opportunity to wrap up on this one. Honorable Kandapah, your last words before we go.
Well, I think we've said it all. It is not just that we are advocating for the state to fund the political parties. We say that even where specific allocations have not been made for the political parties, we know that they use monies allocated for other purposes to fund their activities. Therefore, let us find a way of regulating it. And this is the conversation that we want to start.
Is this where, what your organization is doing? That's what you're...
We want, at the end of the day, to come up with recommendations which hopefully will end up as an act of parliament to say that this is the way political parties should be financed. But I think from the very interesting discussions that we've had here, I will also want to leave with this admonition that we should take the sanctions aspect very, very seriously. That is the only way you stop it. And then let us apply the rules. For instance, Section 91 of the Public Procurement Act says that in respect of any major procurement in this country, the Auditor General, apart from its normal audit activities, should conduct a procurement audit in respect of such procurement. So, for instance, for the project that we're doing at the Circle, the Auditor General should tell us every year how the contract was awarded, whether there was value for money, how the contractors are performing. We should know, in respect of that school block that they're putting up in my constituency, the Auditor General should give me such a report. Right. This law has been there for years. The Auditor General has not conducted one procurement audit.
Wow.
So, yes, probably we do have the laws. Let's make sure
they work.
Apply them.
Okay. Unfortunately, Kina and Linda ran out of time.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it was a very important information, you know.
Go with a politician.
All right, thank you very much for your time, and thank you as well for watching us. We'll be back tomorrow with a business edition of State of Affairs with Kweku Timing. Have a beautiful evening.